Welcome to another exciting edition of Business Point, a program where we highlight business issues in Nigeria and some of the things that are happening in our business world. We know that business is a very important and critical sector in Nigeria's economy, how we run our economy, how we put ourselves to do the things that we do as a country as regards our fiscal policy, our monetary policy, our economic policy. All of these things has to do with business, and that is what we bring on the show whenever we come on the show. My name is Ubong Osoro, standing in for the Queen of Business, Kike Lomo Okere, and I'm saying welcome to business. How has January been concerning how Nigeria is doing with business and some of the things that are happening in our country at the moment? So stay with us today on the program as we get to highlight some of the business discussions that are going on in the country at this time. My name is Ubong Osoro, and this is Business Point. Stay with us. All right, so the first business story we have is that the federal government prioritizes infrastructure in its 87.31 billion naira aviation budget. All right, so for the year 2026, the aviation sector, we're seeing 87.31 billion naira streamline in the budget for aviation sector, and the federal government is saying that infrastructure is going to be the major project that it would be focusing on in the aviation sector, right? So there are talks about development of runways, carriage, development of terminals, hangars, and every other thing that is needed to make the Nigerian aviation sector more world-class and more competitive when we look at other aviation sectors around the world. And the federal government is saying for this year, 87.31 billion naira would be put into the aviation budget, but we are prioritizing building infrastructure in that particular sector of Nigeria's economy. And there have been talks about how Nigerian aviation industry competes favorable with other aviation industries around the world, knowing very well that aviation is a very serious economic marker world over, because the movement of people, the movement of goods, the movement of raw materials can be done from the aviation industry, right? The same way our ports are also very, very important. So the federal government is also saying that it will place strong emphasis on infrastructure development in the aviation sector, and it is allocating 87.31 billion naira in the 2026 national budget for that particular sector. And we are going to be seeing budget details, including allocation into airports rehabilitation, which is very important, airport rehabilitation across the country. We'll also be seeing allocation into runway maintenance, terminal upgrades, and aviation security equipment and air navigation systems, right? So 5 major things that the federal government would be hoping to make better in the Nigerian aviation industry for the year 2026. Number 1, the federal government is saying for this year, we are going to be doing a lot of airport rehabilitation around the country, and this is where the money will be sent into airport rehabilitation, which is also very important. Runway maintenance, of course, you know, runway is important for the aircraft that are landing and the aircraft that are going to be moving all across the country. So runway is very, very important. The government is saying we will also prioritize runway maintenance in this particular fiscal year. That's the year 2026 for where we are putting money into. And the government is also saying, all right, so terminal upgrades at different air terminals across the country should be seeing some level of upgrades because of the money that has been budgeted to go into that particular, industry. And we'll also be having aviation security equipment, because now security is starting to play a very prominent role in Nigeria's discussion. No matter the side of the coin that you're looking at it from, security is now a very, very important sector in Nigeria, and it affects our economy, affects every other sector. So the aviation industry in 2026 hopes to do a lot of upgrades as to security equipment for early detection, signs, and alert system, and all of those kind of systems all across the country to help the country at this particular time. And also the government is saying this 87.31 billion naira budget will also go into air navigation systems, that like the air tower that we have, the control towers, and different air navigational systems like the GPS, the global positioning systems, and different other systems that we have world over. So it is actually aimed at improving passenger safety in the country. We talk about passenger safety. We also talk about enhancing operational efficiency at this particular time. Passenger safety is very important, operational efficiency, so that the Nigeria's airlines can compete favorably with other airlines all across Nigeria at this particular time. So government is saying passenger safety, which is very important with these upgrades that will be coming into our aviation system. So we'll see passenger safety would be increasing. And by the way, we've actually done well as a country for some years now. We've seen more training, we've seen more innovation go into aviation system, and we've actually seen that we've done well as regards tracking. We've done well as regards mitigation of risk in that particular sector. So that has been something that has stood out for Nigeria at the time. And government is saying, yes, let's not relax on our horses, let's put in more work, let's put in more efficiency in that particular sector and come out better by putting in this money into infrastructure in the Nigerian aviation system. So Nigeria will be promoted to become a regional aviation hub all across West Africa, and industry stakeholders believe that this investment, if properly implemented, could address long-standing challenges such as urging flight delays. We could talk about safety concerns across the nation's airports. These are some of the things we could also talk about. Yes, when these monies are properly utilized in the country. So we could talk about safety in Nigeria's airport, and this is also one thing that is very important, right? So government is saying, yes, we'll focus on infrastructure, but also security infrastructure is important. We are also going to be looking at not just security infrastructure, we are also going to be looking at different kinds of infrastructure, air runway maintenance, which is crucial to making sure that we have good runways. So there will be nothing like accidents. We'll not be hearing of accidents in our aviation sector because we have good runways all over the country. So these monies will be prioritized and put into different airports and different aviation compartments all across Nigeria to give us a better approach to competing favorably in the aviation sector in the country. And I think this is very important, and this is quite amazing for the country at this particular time, right? And the government is saying this is what we want to do, put out 87.31 billion naira in our aviation systems across the country. We are doing runway maintenance. We are also doing infrastructure development. We are doing airport rehabilitation, different airports across the country. Because I remember some weeks ago, that was last year, towards November, December, a lot of Nigerians came out to complain about some of the infrastructure we have at the airport here in Abuja, the international airport in Abuja. Some Nigerians came on social media and complained about the fact that it seems we've not done enough with our infrastructure. We've not put in enough money in our infrastructure. We've not designed our infrastructure. We've not done what we're supposed to do. And I think this is when the government is listening and saying we listen, and also putting in money in security equipment for our airport. I think this is also very good. So it gives investors confidence that they can land in our airport and they will not be kidnapped, they will not be taken over by bandits, which has been a source of concerns for a lot of persons that want to come home and invest in our country at this particular time. So, right, that's the first business story that we have for you today, talking about what the government is saying as to investment in our aviation sector. And I think this is actually very, very important at this particular time for Nigeria as a country, and making us a regional hub, making us that hub all over Nigeria, the West Africa sub-region, where people could know, okay, I could fly into Nigeria because Nigeria's airport is safe, Nigerian airport has the best equipment, and from there I could move to other places in the sub-region. So we're already getting to be known as the port hub in the subcontinent. So this is actually something very good that will further make Nigeria the standard of whatever we want to do in the subcontinent. But let's talk about another story at this time, and that's about stocks, dollars, treasury slide on US as Europe trade tensions. We're seeing that story now, and we'll be bringing to you stocks, dollar slide as Europe trade tensions at the moment. So the global financial market has recorded some level of slide as a result of many factors. Companies are are watching the international activity to know if they want to put out monies into large-scale investments all across the country. And this is affecting our country at this time. So global financial markets has recorded a downturn as stocks, the US dollar, and government treasury have fallen following tensions between the United States and Europe. And this is also affecting global economy all over Africa and all over the world. So we are seeing this because of the tensions between the US and Europe. Talks are sliding downward as to investments all across the country. So the tension stems from fresh tariff threats and disagreements over industrial subsidies between the US, which is the biggest market in the world, and Europe, which is also a very big market at the time. So this has resulted in investors moving away from risk-sensitive assets worldwide, triggering sell-off across major stocks exchanges across the world. So we're also seeing market analysts warning that prolonged trade disputes could further disrupt global supply chains and slow economic growth and increase volatility in emerging markets, especially Africa, because when a lot of African countries save money and bank with the dollar and all of these global stocks all over the world. So if we're having a slide, it affects the ability to be able to pull out these funds, and it lowers the market capitalization of most of those countries all around Africa. So it is something that could have a long-term effect as we try to move into 2026 the more, if it is not managed properly, as we are seeing the dollar, as companies are avoiding high-risk investment at the moment, especially European companies, as they are looking at stocks to invest because of the dispute between the US and Europe. We've seen different levels of tariffs being thrown at one another. The US is saying, okay, for so goods, if you are doing any metal goods, if you are doing any steel product in our country, you'll be paying 150% tariff. We've also seen Europe say, no, this is this. And already we are seeing more separation of the markets and more individualistic economic policies all over the world, with Brexit that we know in the UK, and the US, almost starting afresh to choose its key partners as to the economy, to key economic partners all over the world, right? So we've seen this slide as to where countries are moving monies to, and the dollar is sliding at the moment because of the US and Europe trade tension. And we always see this whenever the world economy has problems like this. Remember when the Ukraine war came, right? It affected the global economy because Europe at that time was a bit skeptical. Was a war going to engulf the entire region. A lot of people did not know. So that was something that Europe was talking about at that time. And the power of the global south whenever we talk about the power of the West, whenever we talk about investments, we talk about tariffs, we talk about economic policy and how it affects countries, especially low-income countries or middle-income countries like the ones we have in West Africa and a lot of other places in Africa, right? So economic policies could look at this. How is it affecting our country at this particular time? But the skills we are bringing to you is that we are seeing investor moving away from risk-sensitive assets, and this has triggered sell-off across major stock exchange in the world, and market analysts are warning that prolonged trade disputes could further disrupt global supply chains and slow economic growth and increase volatility in the global market, especially emerging markets like Africa, and that could actually affect us if we do not take precaution at this particular time. So what can Nigeria do as a country, right? And this also takes us to questions about how we can, as a people, develop our economy to bank on our own currency and bank on our own terms, right? Do business on our own terms. Those are discussions that we've had over time, and we've also talked about the fact that, yes, it could be a little bit difficult for us as a people, right? Because it seems to affect us the more in this particular part of the world, right? So those are discussions talking about how we could slow our economic activity and how increased volatility could affect our emerging economic systems all over the world, right? So this has been a struggle for a lot of countries, and this is what we are seeing at this moment, right? But let's talk about some business stories in Africa at this particular time, and let's go to livestock now, where the Nigerian government has said that the Nigerian livestock industry could hit 74 billion US dollars, right? So the livestock sector could hit a GDP growth of 74 billion naira. That is coming from the federal government of Nigeria. And I think this is one business angle or business side that some persons do not look at, right? And they may need to start looking at it, the livestock sector, because it offers a lot of opportunities for a lot of Nigerians and a lot of people. The livestock sector is very, very, very important in Nigeria at the time. And the government is saying, okay, the livestock sector could contribute as much as 74 billion US dollars to Nigeria's gross domestic product in the coming years. And there are questions about it. Is this true? Can we actually do this at this particular time? But for me, I think that this will be a great one for Nigeria if we're able to generate just from the livestock sector 74 billion US dollars. Those are monies that could be put into a lot of other things from, we'll talk about healthcare, we'll talk about infrastructure, education, and especially if it revolves around the country, employment, both directly and indirectly. So you still see the multiplier effect, as we call it in economics, of this particular sector. So the Nigerian government is saying that the livestock sector could contribute 74 billion naira to the country's gross domestic product in the coming years. Officials said that the projection is driven by ongoing reforms in animal health, ranch development, feed production, meat processing, and export value chain. So the sector, the Nigerian livestock sector, is expected to create millions of jobs, particularly in rural communities, right? Yes, especially in rural communities. And this is also very important because a lot of people in rural communities in Nigeria struggle with security, and if we have a lot of monies coming in, we could now talk about the reduction in even the farmer-herder conflicts that we've been having. We keep having this conflict all around the country, but if we have increase in our livestock sector, and a lot of things are going on in that particular sector, we could see this get to reduce. All right, so let's get back to the studio now as we keep talking about the sustained need for investment, policy consistency, improved data management to actually fully unlock the potential of the Nigerian livestock sector. All right, so this is, for me, I think this is like a big deal and something Nigeria needs to sit down and look at and say, how do we do this? How do we get to revalidate our livestock sector? How do we get investors to come in, put in money in our livestock sector? This is a sector that has the potential to reach to the high levels for Nigeria and open up great amount of potential for the country and unlock Nigeria's potential all around Africa. Nigeria, with sustained investment, policy consistency, and improved data management, these are some of the things that could actually help the country. But the federal government is saying at this level and at this time, we are expecting to create jobs valued at $74 billion US from the livestock industry in Nigeria. And for me, this is a big news that investors can just bounce on and make meaning out of this particular arrangement by the government and see how much we're able to raise. But we've talked about it already, ranch development, instead of just having cattle, as nomadic, moving from one place to the other, let's put them in ranch, let's have better health care for our cattle, let's have better training for those who are caring for animals in the livestock, and see the multiplier effects that will actually come out from that particular investment. Let's talk other stories now, as the Nigerian exchange adds 93 billion naira to market capitalization. The Nigerian exchange has posted a modest recovery as market capitalization has increased by 93 billion naira, reversing the recent losses that we've seen in that particular Nigerian exchange. Right, so the rebound was largely supported by renewed buying interest in banking, industrial, and consumer goods stocks, as investors took advantage of the undervalued equities. Market analysts say improved corporate earnings expectation and selective bargain hunting helped stabilize trading, though the caution that broader market performance remains sensitive to macroeconomic conditions. IMF has pushed for stronger public finance and international fund and called Nigeria to strengthen its public finance as to make this capitalization become more and stay more focused as we move into the future. But I think this is actually a very good one. The recovery where we've seen with the Nigerian exchange, as it has now added 93 billion naira to market capitalization, meaning that our stock exchange has become stronger. And I think I saw some stocks that have done so well, right? Even some bank stocks, some stocks that, some person just put in money there and we're not expecting it to come out well, but we've seen it, actually come out very, very well. And that has been like something that has been very amazing for those who are putting money and those who are doing business. So congratulations, we've seen the Nigerian exchange, rebound, and we've seen the amount of money that has been recovered by the Nigerian exchange, right? So we could talk about more value addition, we could talk about more investment and how our stocks have been doing, but this is a good one. At the start of the year, we've increased our data management. We've seen the sector recovery and adding 33 billion naira to Nigeria's market capitalization. That is a big win for the Nigerian exchange, because yes, some people could say this recovery is a modest recovery, but yes, it is a modest recovery, but it shows that we could actually reverse the recent losses that we've had, because we've had a lot of losses of recent. So this is like a rebound of the Nigerian exchange. So, and we've seen that it is largely supported by renewed buying interest in banking, industrial, and consumer goods stocks, and investors are taking advantage of undervalued equities, and market analysts say improved corporate earnings expectation could actually help Nigeria. All right, so the last story, business story that we're taking to you this afternoon says that the IMF, International Monetary Fund, pushes for stronger public finance and international monetary finance across the country and calls Nigeria to strengthen public finance through enhanced revenue mobilization, expenditure control, and fiscal transparency. All right, so the IMF is saying Nigeria needs to reduce budget deficits, improve tax administration, and limit reliance on borrowing. So IMF giving Nigeria some food for thoughts, some advice, right? Like advising Nigeria, and we see them advise Nigeria from time to time, but that's all that we can take this afternoon on Business Points. Like I say, whenever I come on the program, remember to always do some business today. Go out there, do business, and don't forget you can come do business with us at Global TV. We are always open to do business with you. We love you and we want to do business with you. My name is Ubong Musara, standing in for the Queen of Business, Kike Lomo Kere. Do have for yourself a successful business day ahead. Bye.